every night, every night are we paradise, paradise seems so far away. Still try to buy myself some time to give me.
Well, it's a very good Friday evening to a very, very busy man, Mr. Ian Marshall. Well, what can we say? You've been involved a long, long time, and your history in drag racing roughly started when?
I guess if you go back to when I was a child, 1972 was the first time that we visited Santa Pod Raceway with my parents.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a strange story because originally I was born in Hartlepool, moved down to Kempston, which is obviously just down the road from Bedford. And all the time that we lived in Kempston, only up until about the age of 7 or 8, we never went to Santa Pod Raceway, even though it was just up the road. We were more into stock car racing, so we used to travel to Coventry every month. Moved back up north, and for some reason there was an advert on TV, drag racing. Oh, right, hang on a minute, that's just down the road from where we used to live. We quite fancy a look at that. So 1972, I think it was something like the Big Go. And it's one of those things where you kind of walk up the banking as it was back in the day.
Yeah.
And the first thing you see is fire engine go out the track.
Yeah.
And you just know you've made it home. I don't know why. And it can't just happen to me. It must happen to 1,000 different people, male, female, young, old, whatever it is. All of a sudden, something it's like an epiphany, and you go, this is what it's about. And from 1972 until I was old enough I started work, luckily. With my job came a company car. So put a load of miles on that, going backwards and forwards from the northeast of England to Santa Pod. Eventually, I got made redundant when I was 22 and decided to move down this way because I wanted to be closer to Santa Pod, easier for travel, liked it down south, still got friends down this way, etc. Got a job in Hemel Hempstead, moved in with family friends in Kempston, and then eventually bought my own flat. Circa 1989, there was an advert in Custom Car Magazine. And basically saying that Santa Pod Raceway were looking for marshals, as we constantly do. So went up to the track, went to see Carlo Gandolfi at the time, who was the race director, and basically handyman, did a bunch of stuff in the background. And he said, well, look, what do you want to do? I said, well, I don't really know what I want to do, but I do want to be involved. He went, right, kettle's over there, crack on, fella, and we'll sort something out. Right, okay, T-Boy. So for the first couple of events, T-Boy, and then all of a sudden, there's a space to start working here or a space to start working there, so you get involved a little bit. So I think I started off in the staging lanes from memory. It's a bit grey, but staging lanes, did some work in the pit area, and from there went on to the bleach boxes, and then sometime later, when it was the crossover between the BDRA and HRA, or BDRA as it was, whichever, and SPRC coming into being, that the SPRC started to run their own race events at the track. So the first event was the British Drag Racing and Hot Rod Association ran the event till 5 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, we took over and we raced till midnight.
Right.
And round about that time, of course, they needed a chief starter. So John Hackney took on the role as chief starter, as you probably may remember. And many of the photos, the old Budweiser jackets, he's in the blue one, I'm in the red one, or whichever way it was. And then John was out there for about a year or so. John was then going to move on to look at becoming a race director, and that element takes quite a while. So he was going off to learn all of those elements. So I remember at one of the trophy evenings, Carlo came to me and went, defensive being the chief starter. It's like, what? Defensive being the chief starter. What we're going to do is we're now going to put the starter button on the start line. You need to operate it, so you take over control, because previously it was dealt with up in the tower. So that we had basically John and I on the start line. We just made sure everything was tickety boo. The cars went into stage, and then the guys in the tower press the button, off goes the race, etc., etc. That all then changed in 1989 when I took over the button.
Wow. And that was the start of it, really, I guess, because
That was, yeah, all those years ago, and then as things progressed and the SPRC took over, BDRA moved on elsewhere, and we started running more and more events, got involved with the Run with Browns and so forth. And then because of the requirement, the role of chief starter isn't just, as the rest of the guys, we all call it's a button monkey. At the end of the day, you get a set of lights come on, you get another set of lights come on. So it's like being a lab rat. Once that's achieved, you press this button and those cars disappear. So,
however, I guess
however, there's an awful lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
And elements of it mean that you have within your position, you can disqualify a car or a bike. Therefore, in order to do that within certain realms of whether it's ACU, Motorsport UK, FIM Europe, or FIA, you have to be a race director or a level of a clerk of the course to go, you're out. Otherwise, it starts getting a bit awkward for the race director because people can lodge appeals and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So then we decided that I would have to go through the race director element as well, also to back up who was then the race director, Darren, who still is,
Yeah.
and then move on to become a race director to international level, which takes 5 years. So the role kind of chief starter, but also going through the role of becoming an international race director across ACU, Motorsport UK, FIA and FIM Europe. So there's an awful lot of involved, and there's an awful lot of understanding because, as you're aware, drag racing, everything happens really, really quick, and you have to make a decision on the spot. It's not like you can go running off to a rule book, thumb a page and go, oh, actually, I don't like the look at that. You can't go up the track. You need to know. You need to make the decision, understand that you've made the correct decision, and we don't always get it right. Don't get me wrong. But 99% of the time you get this right. Otherwise, the race director has appeals and Lord knows what coming his way on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So the likes of, now that David Warren has obviously taken over the role, he has a good understanding of the rule book. Chris Schreier, who is now his assistant, also has a good understanding of the rule book. But they also have to go through the same process. ACU race director, Motorsport UK race director, or clerk of the course, same thing.
Yeah. So I guess because you're there, and I know it's a commentary thing, but the slightest little speck or can be a torrent down the track, that sort of stuff happens. You have to be alert. You've got the people on the line as well, and you
Yeah.
can't have the stuff going down there. But if you see anything technical that's not quite right with the car, you can stop that car there and then. And
Indeed.
so that's the
Can't
most
bike,
important
whatever.
thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an awkward thing, especially when you say it could be a small spot, it could be whatever. Excuse me. The problem is when you see an oil leak, and yes, we understand over a period of time how bad an oil leak is or can be. The problem is a small oil leak here. Once you leave the start line at 7,000 RPM or whatever it is, it can get a whole lot worse really, really quickly. And we've all seen it happen where a car goes out to get to the 8th mile, oil leak, water leak, whatever it is. And before you know it, the car's in the wall. So we're also there to protect the driver, rider, and of course, all of the public and so on and so forth. So you have to be like super vigilant constantly. And it's one of those things where, the first pair of cars goes up the track at 9:30 in the morning, and the last pair of bikes or cars are going up the track in some cases at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You've got to be on the case for 12 hours.
That is a very, very long. I don't know how you guys do it. No, I mean, obviously we do right. Well, I used to do the radio all day long, but to be there, vigilant, looking at it, seeing what's going on, the different classes, whether it's the street stuff, sportsman to top fuel, and the bikes and everything else. You have to be 100% with each one of those runs. It must be really hard work for you, and you must be absolutely whacked out at the end of the day as well.
The end of something like the main event, which is a 4 or 5 day event, when you include the test day, yeah, it does, kind of finish you off at the end of it. It's just, but that's the nature of the beast. That's what we signed up for. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, we're there as volunteers. We can just go, I don't want to do this anymore. But you'll notice we're not doing that. We're all sticking around because we love what we do.
Yes.
We love the sport, and we love to move the sport forward as well. So yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, SPRC, you're now chairman of, secretary, sorry,
Yes, that's right.
of SPRC. That must be a big job as well, because you're looking at every single meeting that comes up, whether it's Dragstalgia or Bug Jam or the main event and the Festival of Power and all of those, and somewhere abroad as well, Germany, Finland,
Yep.
Sweden, wherever, and you're involved in all of that. So it's a huge responsibility for you.
It is. Again, running the the Santa Pod Racers Club is my day job, and then at weekends up at the track. Obviously, I'm no longer the chief starter now because I not resigned. That's the wrong word. I basically retired at the end of 2024. It was my 60th birthday. I've been doing it for 33 years, somewhere around that. And you kind of go, really and truthfully, I promised Dave for several years that his time would come. And you can only be the bridesmaid for so long. And I had to be fair to Dave as well, and also to myself. And I thought, you know what, 60th birthday is at the national finals. It's the last big event. Hand it over to Dave and let him deal with that. So now I can spend more time looking after the track and dealing with track prep and so on and so forth. But then you've still got to run Santa Pod Racers Club, and it's almost like, and I'm sure it must go on in hundreds of jobs everywhere. You get to the end of the season, the national finals is done on the Sunday night, and you go, great, all the trophies are handed out. That's it. We don't start again till Easter next year, if only.
Yeah. No. Everybody knows.
It doesn't work that way, because really and truthfully, from round about July of the previous year, you're already working towards, for argument's sake, July 25, you're working towards Easter 26. There's so much stuff that has to be done in advance. And it's just a ton of work. But, again, no one's got a gun to my head.
No, and you love it. And let's talk about, obviously you got involved at a very young age, watching the sport and everything else. You actually have raced as well.
Oh yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
From around about 1992, 93, Paula and I decided that we wanted to build a race car, or probably I did, and I said, "Do you want to drive it?" So that she got involved.
Right.
So we decided to build a race car. Jeff Hauser built the chassis, did the tin work and so forth. John Webster was involved at the time because John worked for Jeff Hauser at one point. And then when John Webster set up his own place, and I obviously started to work for John, I worked with John for 8 years, and the car went there. But the idea being is we wanted to build a supergas car, because back in the day, as it still is, supergas was the class. All of you look at all of the heroes, the Al O'Connors and the Sean, I can't think of his name, Sean. It'll come back to me. Anyway,
and John
there are
Moulton,
so many. Luke Ramage, all of those guys,
Yeah,
and a lot of the guys that are still around.
Yeah.
Jerry Gibbs, etc., etc. All of those people, it was just the class to be in. So we built the car. Paula raced it in supergas until the decision was made, if you want to call it a decision that's made. We decided it was time to have a baby, Holly. So Paula decided at that time she would step away from the car. And at a similar time, I was already talking to Rob Loring about another class, super modified.
Yeah.
And we decided that it was kind of within our budget, It never is, but you always find the money, you know.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have a go at super modified, so we upgraded the car and so forth. And I went off and I used to race super modified at a couple of events at Santa Pod Raceway and all of the events at Shakespeare County Raceway.
Yeah.
Obviously, whilst you're working at the pod, you can't do everything. So
No.
it just, that was kind of how it worked. And yeah, it all just went really, really well. I loved the racing, the car. The only downside, if there ever was one, the quickest the car went was 8:04 at 175 miles an hour. I never got that 7-second timing ticket.
Oh, but
Just one of those,
I mean, look,
we were
look,
trying and trying and trying, and then it got to the point where the regulations changed, the safety regulations, and our car was at that point only then legal to go 850.
right.
So, we're already gone 804. Sorry, your car's illegal. Park it up. And eventually, actually, we parked it up and we sold it, and the car's still out there racing. In fact, it's literally just changed hands with an unknown new owner, and it will be back out racing this year, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because your history with John Webster, the Houses, Rob Loring, all of them they know their stuff. They do amazing work, and
Oh, man. Yeah.
and that what you're getting is proper and really good.
Yeah, exactly. When you consider the three main chassis builders that we've got, you've already mentioned Jeff Hauser, John Webster, Andy Robinson.
Andy Robinson, yeah.
Yeah, there and Chris Isaacs when he was around. He's obviously retired now, but
Yeah.
their work is second to none.
Yeah.
And really and truthfully, if you look at some of the chassis builders stateside, the chassis builders in Sweden, our guys are up with those easily.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like Chris Isaacs, he built a lot of cars, street eliminator cars, as well as obviously John and
Andy,
and
yeah,
Andy as well.
yeah.
And Chris had some good cars, didn't he, out there,
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
including his own. Yeah, it's amazing. So now let's talk a little bit about your being on the start line. You're thinking all the time. You must have had some fun times as well. Have you got any that sort of come to mind over a long period of time?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff. Some of them at the time you just smile. Some of them that they stick here forever. I don't know whether you remember the name Champagne Mike Kaysen, curb dozer. Okay, whenever he used to come up to a Rom at your bung, he had the slingshot dragster. For those who don't know, slingshot dragster with I believe a blown Hemi in it, but don't quote me on that. It might have been a blown big block Chevy or a Ford or whatever. Anyway, he's got this blown slingshot dragster. Whenever he came round, this car's going to run a 6. It's going to happen this time. We're going to run a 6. We're going to this, which he never did, not to my recollection anyway. But the car was always going to run a 6. It's going to be so fast. It's going to absolute. It was proper diamond. This chap. He was called Champagne Mike Kaysen because back in the early days he used to do his burnouts in Champagne. True.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, on this particular day, he's come out. We've had the usual spiel, and Bob Day and myself were on the start line, all very professional,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah, Bob.
So he's gone and done the burnout, and he's backed up, and literally he's gone to leave as the tree's gone down, and the car's gone. Nothing. Blah, 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 blah. And it's just me when I'm going blah, 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 blah. And we're looking at each other, Bob and I, going, what the hell is going on here? Next thing, the parachute comes out. Okay. And the car is slowly wandering towards the Armco barrier. They say how long ago it was. Armco barrier. And we're looking at each other and going, what? Has he had a heart attack? Should we start making a move? And it's blah, 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 blah. Suddenly the engine tries to go off and it's going blah, blah, blah. And it keeps going, doink, hits the fence, engine shuts off. That's it. It's like, Christ, we better, run over there, a couple of extinguishers, Bob's in tow, all that kind of stuff. Gets there. Bernie's got the steering wheel in his hand. It came off. Right. Really? I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people have done that. There must be, I must have seen that 4, 5, maybe 6 times. where people haven't quite got the steering wheel back in place, especially with there's a particular one that has a specific spline that goes in. If it doesn't click into place, the moment you launch, obviously the G-force, you go like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I must have seen it happen
And out it comes.
4 or 5 times. And it's just, no.
Don't even get a chance to do negative G because they've got it all in it.
Exactly. It's just, there's all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff goes on where you just shake your head. You must have seen stuff, from up in the tower and so forth back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, drag racing. It's like all sports as well, but drag racing is a very, very special thing because everybody competes against each other. However, everyone is always helping each other out and everything else, and it's just a very, very nice environment to
It
be
is.
in. You know.
Drag racing, we're very, very fortunate with drag racing because when you go into the pits and you see all the guys working on the cars, bikes, whatever, fine well, if Joe Schmo next door needs an XYZ, somebody's there with it, or there'll be a queue of people going, oh yeah, here you go, you can borrow this, borrow this. Everybody's the best of friends, big family atmosphere, and so forth, from the juniors all the way up to top floor.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. People will help each other out. But the moment you fire that car or bike up and go around the start line, that's a different deal. Mortal enemy in the other lane. But when you get down to the shutdown area,
happy days.
it's all shake hands, well done, however it worked out. Oh, you broke something, don't worry, I've got one in the pits. And that is one of the things that makes drag racing so good, such a family orientated sport. And long may that continue, really.
Absolutely. I mean, like people know nowadays, obviously you've got John Webster's on the just outside the track, but people needed welding done, people would go along and help them. It's just amazing right the way through. It's incredible. And people have gone off site, and gone many, many miles to get bits for cars and stuff.
Crikey,
Like I know, Rob Wilson, or was it one of the guys, travelled quite a distance to get some bits for them, last year. And it's amazing how this sport is just brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and my daughter Holly, she cruised with David Vector on a couple of Pro Modified car, and last year I think it was they had a problem. They broke the rear end or damaged one of the rear end gears. Holly had to go to Holland that day to pick up a gear set from Mark Hartfeld, because he wasn't racing at the time, to come back, get it in the car overnight so that they could complete eliminations the following day.
How did they do that? Ferry? Yeah.
I don't think it's ferry. I think they went through the tunnel purely because it's quicker.
Wow.
Hour and a half, 2 hours, where the tunnels, it's half an hour.
Yeah.
They got through to the other side of the tunnel, met either Mark Hartfeld or one of his crew, grabbed the bits, turned around, got back on the other train and came home.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Exactly,
going back in the day, I remember Holly being in the junior funny car and everything. It's incredible. And look at them all now. I mean, back in the day, all the people like Pete Walters, Scott, Joe Kellett, all of them, they're out there still doing their stuff, but they were all junior dragsters to start with, and it's just an incredible field of junior dragsters, isn't it? It's amazing.
It is. And when you watch the junior dragster drivers and also junior drag bike riders, which are now starting to filter through, you got to be so good, because man, they're killer. When you look at the people that are at the top of their rankings in terms of Super Pro and Pro ET and so forth, quite a few of those have come from the junior dragster and junior drag bike ranks, in their classes, ET bike, 950 bike, 850 bike, and it's a fantastic school to teach all of the children racecraft for when they move on. And when they do move on, damn, they're good.
They are, and they're brilliant on the trees as well.
Exactly that, And how many drag races have you seen won or lost on the tree?
absolutely. Yeah,
You only
it
have
is.
to look at, some of the data, and there was like 0.0 nothing at the finish line, and that was all because the guy had 0.0 nothing on you on the tree
On
at
the
the
tree.
start line.
Yeah, incredible.
Got to be on your game.
It's all good to see, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
any other good memories that you've had over the years? That's
There are
too
right.
many, really.
There are too many. I suppose some of the things that stick in your mind are the records, the
Yeah,
first times, the first 300-mile-an-hour funny car, which was obviously the year before last. The first 5-second fuel altered year before last. The first time you saw 300, first time, as it turned out, first time we saw 304 side by side, two fuel cars. And there's just all of that stuff that just stick in your mind. And okay, I'm not very good with dates and so forth, but certain people who've achieved certain things. But there's also those people who you see have been pushing for years and years and years to try and achieve something. And there's nothing better than that. Finally got it. Whatever it was, whether they're trying to run a 7 or trying to run a 6, doesn't matter. Just to get the flipping car up the track, whatever it might be.
yeah.
That
I mean,
just
look at all the
it's
people that are
brutal.
out there that come through, sportsman classes, pro ET, super, all of those people, they just turn up, just some of them do three different classes or two different classes,
Oh, yeah.
and they're always trying so hard to do that. And as you say, when you're on the start line and we're watching, amazing just to see people do it. And when they get back to the pits, whoever they are, the bikes, the cars, it's just an amazing to see these people, especially if you're close up with it all. If
Yeah, yeah.
you're sitting on the bank, the people just love it. It's just brilliant, And so many different stuff goes down the track these days now. It's awesome.
I mean, yeah, you only have to look at the performance of what people are doing. Let's maybe go back 10 years. Okay. In 10 years ago, perhaps, if you had a 9-second streetcar that you could drive on the street, that you were like superhero status. Okay. Now, I know it's slightly different. You look at Street Eliminator, they're running 6s. I mean, it's just ridiculous. 6s at 210 mile an hour. That's just complete and utter madness. But on a flip side, I don't know whether you've ever been up there and seen it, but there's a chap that comes along to a lot of company. He's got his BMWs knocking on the door of running 7s.
Yeah.
The difference being, if you parked 4 of his BMWs, and he's got a ton of customers that are like super, super quick cars, if you parked 4 of them in a line in a BMW showroom, you wouldn't be able to come out.
Wow.
Because they've got full interior. They come with and change the tires and put like ET Street radials or something along those lines on it, but everything else looks completely stock. And these things are doing 155 mile an hour on the quarter.
Incredible. It's madness, isn't it? And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's good. I mean, you go back in the days of Splinter and all them, they were just amazing times, the Street Eliminator guys. And
Especially when you consider that, as you say, before the advent, if you will, of the ET Street radio, and before people had figured out when they're all running on the Sportsman Pro tyres, which required so much time and effort to make those tyres work. And you had such a narrow window because, funny story, but I'm sure he won't mind me telling you. Andy Frost, when he had Red Victor and he was running that in Street Eliminator, he's just got a new set of tyres. So they're Mickey Thompson Sportsman Pros, super wide, all this kind of stuff. But because of the way the tyre is manufactured and because of the compound of the rubber, you basically have to go out and do a mental burnout before you can get these things to work. I remember walking home one night. I can't remember why I was walking, but I'm walking home one night from John's. It was a regular thing. John is just a workaholic. He works till whatever time. And this must have been about 9 o'clock at night. And all I can hear is I'm about, I don't know, maybe 2 miles away from the shop, getting towards home. And all I can hear is Red Victor 1 doing this mental burnout it's on the industrial estate that John's Place used to be at, just to try and get to the point where the tyres were a usable commodity, if you will.
To
Just,
go. Yeah.
yeah, once you got them to work, you had such a tiny window, and they're probably only good for, I don't know, about 20 laps, and then they start to go off again.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the ET Street Radial came along, and then now, if you look at it, the likes of Andy Bond and all the guys that are running sevens and knocking doors on the door of sixes are doing it on a 295 tyre.
Yeah. Incredible. That's just incredible, isn't it? You know,
It is, yeah. The you know, in terms of the turbocharger has obviously pushed performance beyond what you would have perceived 20 years ago. If the ECUs with the ability to control all of that power has then allowed people to manage it to such a level that you can run those kind of numbers. It's just bonkers, which makes you think, where are we going to be in 5 years' time?
dread to think in some respects. It's great, isn't it? I mean, this is
Yeah.
this is the joy of it all, you know, going through the years of all the different changes and everything else that's happened and the rule changes and everything. But nothing has taken away that desire to reach certain times and speeds and everything. It's constant, and everybody wants to improve their, you know, their win lights at the end of the day. You know, no matter what they are, bikes, right the way through to, you know, the cars, amazing, and everyone is just so geared up to do it. It's
Mm.
incredible. And
It's
when someone says, "Oh, we're tuning the car," we're tuning. Yeah, okay. You know, the knowledge now is incredible.
you tune in the car, and it's not just you're not just going in and tweaking a carburettor anymore. I don't know, you're doing the chassis, you're doing the engine, transmission, the way the car works, the aerodynamics, everything. Because at the end of the day, these people aren't trying to go slower; they're only ever trying to go faster. But the difference is there's 20 other blokes in the same class, or girls, because there's a lot of girls in drag racing.
Yeah.
Very good. There are 20 racers in your class trying to do the same thing. So you've always got to try and outsmart them, because you know fine well during the winter they're not sat in their garage with their car in the garage at home in front of the fire twiddling their thumbs. They're in the garage figuring out how to make the thing go fast.
And it's milliseconds sometimes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's incredible.
it is.
So, you know, it's great to do this with you, because obviously, you know, known you for a long time now. But you know, just having someone like you that with the knowledge and the rules and everything else, it must be amazing for you. And you must have such a head of knowledge. It's incredible.
Uh, I guess, yeah. Again, really and truthfully, it's I have a good understanding of the rule book. Fortunately, I also helped to write the rule book with from ACU to Motorsport UK. I have a hand in, or have had hand in FIA. I definitely have a hand in FIM Europe as well
Yeah.
in terms of the rules. But the background is because you want to learn. How can I put it? If you get certain people who are, how can I put it? I can't think of the right phraseology, but to put it in a different way, when you get out of bed in the morning, and some people get out in the morning and go, "Oh, Christ, got to go to work," and this, that, and the other. I'm completely the opposite. I look forward to going to work because it's what I'm interested in. And I'm in a very, very fortunate position that I can get out of bed and go, you know, into the office, and I can do what I want to do. And I can help to progress the sport in my own little way, and help through Santa Pod Racers Club, through Santa Pod Raceway, through whatever else is going on in Europe with tracks, with rules, regulations, with track preparation, all of it. And I've been fortunate enough that, you know, I've worked in Finland, Sweden, Norway, America, Bahrain, and so on and so on and so on. And that continues. But all of that time that you're doing that, you build up your knowledge base,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
you can then pass on to other people. And that's the important thing, that, you know, we continue this and push it forward. And I'm in a fortunate position where I can do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, happy as that, really.
A lot of work going on on the track at Santapod at the minute, and stuff going on. Interesting.
There is. Yeah, Keith's had his credit card out, or he's had his wallet nicked off him, and he's been spending an awful lot of money. He's basically enlarged the pit space by about 25%. So Dale Leakes is up there with his team of earth movers, if you will, and they've basically enlarged the pit space. That in itself is fantastic, because when you consider where we were last year, we were at the point in terms of entries where we're having to turn people away.
Yeah.
Drag racing is just on and up at the moment. Don't know why. Not going to knock it. Want it to continue, but we have to have space for these people to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And Keith's recognised that for a lot of years, and now has, with the help of Dale Leakes, the ability to do that. But also within the scrutineering building, which isn't obvious to anyone because you can't really see inside it, we've laid a whole new 350-inch concrete pad, so that Top Fuel cars, Pro Modifieds and so forth can all be weighed with a greater degree of accuracy. So all that's being done. The bleach boxes, which were starting to get the usual curved dips in them from the constant burnout and so forth, they've been replaced.
Wow.
And we've also been up there, and every 2 or 3 years, what we do is we constantly scrape the track to keep the rubber to a minimum. But on this occasion, we basically scrape the first 120 feet from roughly where a Top Fuel tyre sits, as though the car's in stage, to 120 feet out. We take all the rubber off the track. Ollie then comes in with his upturned helicopter, if you will, the rotor device that you'll probably seen on Facebook, and basically puts a key back onto the concrete surface. Because if you imagine, each time a vehicle, car or bike, doesn't matter, goes up the track, the tyre is rotating slowly. They don't dead hook in most cases. There's only really Street Eliminator, the dead hook. So anyway, the tyre rotates. So what it does is it polishes the surface. Even though there's rubber between it, it still polishes the surface. And then eventually, if you imagine a flat sheet of paper, the rubber only has that surface to adhere to. Okay, so it's basically a flat polished surface.
Yeah.
However, if you had that flat piece of paper, but it looked like 120 grit sandpaper, it's got a greater given area because of the peaks and troughs. Therefore, the rubber sits into it, and it stops the rubber pushing back and lifting off during the biggest problems, probably round about Pro Mod and Top Fuel tyre shake. It can pull the rubber up.
Yeah.
So with this key that we put back on the surface, it just stops that happening, and just keeps the track more consistent. So every 2 or 3 years, we generally do that.
Where did you learn that from? Because
Really, some of it is self-taught. When I first started working there, and Shell Peterson, who I'm sure you remember,
no, Shell,
was in
yeah.
there. Yeah. Shell taught us a great deal about track prep, and then Shell decided to go back to Sweden because he wanted to be back over with his family and so on and so forth. And we took over, and at that point, like the likes of Darren, myself, and a couple of others, we had some ideas what we'd like to do with the track. Back in the day when it was tarmac, we made some improvements and started to move things along, just doing it our way. But then when you start visiting other tracks and talking to people, sometimes you learn what to do, sometimes you learn what not to do.
Yeah.
And on that basis, you build up that knowledge base, and you start to apply that to what we're doing. I'm not saying we get it right every time, because we
No.
didn't. And we don't. I mean, the first time that we ran the concrete track, it was a complete mess. But we didn't know at the time how far we had to push the glue and to make this work and so on and so forth. But literally that year at Easter, the track was it was just, you could get probably up to Pro ET up the track. And after that, it's cold, it's damp, the track wasn't where we needed it to be. We were on a big learning curve because, unfortunately, the concrete was a little bit late being laid due to weather conditions and so
Yeah.
forth. So we were on our back foot trying to get it done, didn't get the time. Anyway, as we learnt from that, come the door slammers, which was before the main event, all of a sudden the track's there because we've learned what not to do. One of
Yeah.
the other guys that I talk with, I wouldn't say on a regular basis, but whenever I get to meet him, we swap some ideas around. There's a guy called Kurt Johnson, not the guy that drives a Pro Stock car, or used to, but Kurt Johnson runs a company called Total Venue Concept. Very, very clever bloke. And we've met each other at various tracks out in the States, and we just kind of swap ideas. And I can learn a lot from him, and occasionally he learns something big from me. But you know, we just keep an eye on. I keep an eye on what he's doing with his company, and he's always keeping an eye on what we're doing, and we just develop. And then you know, we'll talk to guys maybe in Sweden, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, we did this. And did you do that? Well, we did it because of this." And you just go, "Why didn't I think of that? We'll try that." And it's really we're swapping ideas because it's not just one track. Because now we've got concrete, the same as a lot of others.
Yeah.
You can then share that knowledge, and it allows everybody to move forward that much quicker.
Yeah. And it's
So-
proved it time and time again in the last few. It's amazing. Now that track there now is just incredible, and
It's-
everyone wants to race on it now. It's just incredible.
Yeah,
know.
I think it's about where we want it to be. But as I say, it's not perfect. I don't know what perfect racetrack is.
No.
A perfect racetrack is for the person who gets it right, and the car goes up the track or the bike goes up the track, and they make a perfect run. For them, it's great. But we always have this awkward situation purely because of the situation we're in. If you go to a radial race out in the States, they glue the track to death. Absolutely glue the track to death because of what they're trying to run with these 295 street tires. But in doing that, you put a slick vehicle up the track and it tears the tires to pieces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we can't afford to do that. So our street eliminator guys are probably more than capable of going faster than they are if we could prepare the track in the way that they do in the States. And of course, if, for argument's sake, our street eliminator guys go out to one of the big radial races and they get to talk to people, oh, you do this, you do this, you do this. Not on our track.
Yeah.
Can't do that because we have to prepare the track for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's from 850 bike, 950 bike, ET bike, which excuse me, in general on a street type tire.
Yeah.
But then you've got super street bike, which is on a pseudo street tire. But then you've got to run top fuel and all of the sportsman guys and not kill their tires, yet still allow the street eliminator guys to put a representative number in. It's just, I'm sure there's probably 4 or 5 cars could quite simply run 6s if we could prep the track in that way.
In that way, yeah. Because I mean, look at the different classes. You start the day, get a lot of stuff down the track, and then you can move it on to to the pro classes and bikes, cars, whichever. And then and that's when you have to know where you are with that and adjust things accordingly. And it's that's what people don't understand sometimes because they're thinking, oh, well, why? The plan is this, and this, but it's not actually because of the weather or temperatures or whatever. Things are slightly changed.
It's really funny. I was looking at something on Facebook. Chris Schreier's just been doing some prep work on the track to put some rubber back on where the concrete is, and somebody's gone on there and they've gone, yeah, why do you have to have the track out when we should be racing? Sorry, the tractor out on the track when we should be racing. And it's, I don't know. It's like a lack of understanding. This is not a circuit. When you get some oil on the circuit, you put some powdered cement down and carry on. This is not the same thing.
No.
These people rely on a very, very high level of traction, and that takes an awful lot to maintain. And therefore, we have to sled, we have to sweep, we've got to clean up oil if we get oil downs, unfortunately, and all the other stuff that goes with it. but you also have to spray the track and respray it at certain times, at certain levels, and so on and so forth. And it's just, I guess some people don't necessarily see that. You go
No.
to the circuit race and watch a Formula One car go on the track. If there's an issue, they're back racing in seconds
Yeah.
because there isn't that level of track preparation. But in order to maintain that standard, it takes a lot of work, and sometimes we have to stop the racing because of it.
Yep, absolutely.
Safety has to be paramount.
Paramount, indeed, for everybody.
Yeah.
Whether it's spectators, to the drivers, the riders, yourselves, everybody, the crews, everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I could talk to you for hours and hours, but what you do is absolutely amazing, and you do it all over the world, and obviously for the UK people, SPRC is doing a brilliant job with Centipod and everything else, and just the whole lot is just amazing, and so carry on doing what you're doing because it's brilliant, and keep the track going as best as you can, and
Yeah.
with you guys at the helm, it can only go one way.
I hope so. I'm hoping that we can continue to improve and keep up with the guys that are trying to go faster, and just maintain a good level of consistency on the track. Safety, as you say, is absolutely paramount,
Yeah.
and we're always pushing the boundaries, trying to keep up with all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, really, it's what everybody does, whether it's the racer that's pushing for their own safety because they buy a new crash helmet, a fire suit, whatever. We're doing stuff in the background as well to try and keep them safe.
Yeah.
Technical crews, the scrutineers,
Yeah.
everybody.
Incredible people, indeed.
Mm,
Yeah, and it's been
absolutely.
absolute pleasure. Don't go anywhere. I will stop the recording in a minute.
Likewise.
But it's been an absolute pleasure to do this because I don't even think I've actually ever spoken to you in the studio at any point over the years. I probably may have done. I can't remember, but it's incredible. And to talk to you now like this and get the knowledge that you've got to the people that look at these podcasts and everything. It's just thank you very, very much. It's amazing.
No, you're more than welcome, and thank
Yep.
you very much for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Every night, every night, every night I wait. Paradise, paradise seems so far away.